Afternoon, Weiss fans. Bet you're thinking I forgot about you. Went off to hang out with my cool new Vanguard kids and totally forgot about my Weiss fans. You don't have to worry about that happening. You think looks this good can contain themselves to one single card game fan base? Of course not. That would just be a waste. Come on now. There's enough man intelligence here for all you card game fans. So, today's topic is going to be the Fate Zero trial deck. So you remember when we all talked about the Gargantia trial deck, and it ended up being pretty much a colossal failure, like a step-by-step guide on how not to make a trial deck? What? You don't? You didn't watch it? Why not? No, it's fine. No, go ahead, go watch it. Go watch it right now. It's cool. We'll wait. So you remember when we talked about the Gargantia trial deck, and it pretty much ended up being a step-by-step guide on how not to make a trial deck? Well, today we're talking about the Fate Zero trial deck, and the Fate Zero trial deck is pretty much the exact opposite of that. Yes, to get it out of the way, I do think this trial deck is pretty amazing. In fact, I would put it right up there with the Sword Art Online trial deck for trial decks beginners should definitely look at getting. So, now that we've wasted about a minute and a half on absolutely nothing, let's get that deck list up there. So here we are. If you're just looking to copy the deck down, then there's your list. Thanks for watching. For the rest of us, let's get dissecting. So 18 level zeros. It's still a little bit high, but it's not unheard of or ridiculous. This deck only has one level 0. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Early game it pokes, late game you clock it. Irisveil von Einsburn is an interesting card. It's honestly the first level 0 I've seen that has a healing effect. In a way, this is kind of a beginner's trap for people who are just picking this trial deck up. Beginning of the game, you're not really looking to heal, but around level 2 or so, that's actually pretty fantastic. At level 2, you can play her, play your climax, pay 2 to heal yourself for 1, and then you can either have her poke an empty spot in your opponent's defenses, or you can just run her into something and suicide her off. This may look a little expensive at first, but level 3s cost 2 to play as well, and most of them are played because of their healing effects. This is like a level 3 healing effect you can get at any point in the game. I actually think that's pretty cool. The only huge downside is, this deck only comes with 2 yellow climax cards. That's a real shame. I feel like there was some real potential for greatness here. If you throw her into a deck with more yellow climaxes, she could actually be a really neat, awesome card. Waver is a shift card, and I'm normally pretty meh on shift cards. This one's kind of meh-ish too, but at least it's a lot better than the one that comes in the Madoka deck. My god, the one that comes in the Madoka deck. You can clock her at the beginning of your turn, and then just pull her back out if it turns out you don't draw anything better, and play her. And she's a pretty good early game card, I guess. Her main problem stems from the fact that you're probably going to have 3 stock within 1 or 2 turns. But hey, you can use her to poke at open spots or just side attack with her. Not that bad. We also get 2 level 0 assassins. I really like assassins, and I think this one is actually really good. Most level 0 walls and heavy hitters are going to be at 4,000 max, so the fact she can hit 4,500 means she can assassinate a lot of really good cards. Obviously, keeping your effect up every single turn would be a problem, but she's an assassin. You can only expect her to live and use her effect one time anyway. To round us off, we have 4 of the plus 500 assist Waver Shadow-Blooded Magician. And now we're at level 1. This is the time for your deck to start picking up some momentum. We get 4 yellow free vanillas, 5500s, you know what they do, you either like them or you hate them. On the other hand, we get 2 of the 1-cost vanilla. While I'm not a huge fan of the 5500 vanillas, I really do love the 1-cost vanillas that are 7000. With a few exceptions, 7,000 is pretty much the highest you're going to get at level 1, so it's like you're paying 1 stock to have a character at max stat. It's a little better when they have Super Encore, but 7,000s are still really great, and I think they round out just about any deck. I like when trial decks come with 7,001 costs. Maya Hisao has 6,000 power as long as you have 4 or less cards in your hand. To be honest, I don't really like this idea. I think if you're playing consistently at level 1, you should always aim to have more than 4 cards in your hand. I understand that situations will arise and you won't always be able to keep that up. So having a card that eats off of that and becomes stronger with the fact that you don't have many cards left is a good idea. But that being said, even if you're fulfilling its requirements, as strong as it can be is a 6,000. I'd rather just pay the one stock and have a character that's a 7,000 all the time, rather than gamble it, but, you know, different opinions. She's still not that bad of a card. Invisible Air Saber is my personal favorite card in the deck. It's like an assassin with a really good boost ability that already starts at a pretty ridiculously high number. I said before that level 1s normally don't go above 7,000 power. That means that after you use this card to assassinate a character, your opponent has to come back with something at 7,000 power, and that is pretty ridiculous. Most assassins stand way below the shear line, like level 0 assassins are normally only 2,500 power, and a lot of level 2 assassins are like 7,500 to 8,000 power. The shear line for level 1 is 6,000. That means this is 500 above the shear line, 500 below the maximum power you can have at level 1, in most cases anyway, and still has a recyclable ability that allows you to assassinate characters. Her ability seriously makes having climaxes in your hand a lot less sucky. Since all you have to do is reveal the climaxes from your hand, it's something you can do for 2 or 3 turns. The obvious downside is once you show your opponent how many climaxes you have in your hands, they're going to be able to plan around it, count the climaxes that are in your discard pile, so on and so forth, but it still gives you field advantage. Just remember, knowledge isn't always power. Sometimes power is just power. Acting Master is a pretty okay card. It's a 6,500 for free who gives the character that she's fighting +1 soul. Now, yes, your opponent getting +1 soul is a bad idea at this stage in the game, because you're going to get pushed to level 2 faster. And honestly, at level 1, you want to be gathering as many resources as you can before you have to go into your level 2 gameplay. But you also have to look at what the card gives you in response to your opponent getting the +1 soul. The card is free, stands 500 points above the shear line, and 1,000 points above Vanilla's. This is another card that dares your opponent to play characters that are 7,000 power, and if they can't take up the dare, then they're going to lose at level 1. Level 2 keeps our momentum strong with a fairly decent lineup. 2 level 2 3,000 backups, very good. Unlike some other less impressive decks, this deck comes with a level 2 assist. Not only that, but it comes with a level assist. Good job. And honestly, its effect isn't that bad either. Paying 1 to give one of your characters +1 soul isn't something you're going to always use, but you do want to get your opponent past level 2 to level 3 as quickly as possible. This deck comes with 2 copies of the 8,500 1-cost level 2. In my Gargantia deck review, people actually thought that I hate 8,500 level 2s. That's not true at all. Sometimes you can only get away with paying 1 stock because you're trying to conserve stock for things like Encores. You can just pay 1 to get an 8,500 to poke at an open spot, or clear out some of your opponent's tech cards. My main problem was that they ran it at 4 because it was supposed to be the main attacker you had at level 2, which just should never happen, ever. Here, you get 2 of these and 3 other really good main beater cards, so, okay, that's fine. Level 2 vanillas that are 9,000 and have 2 souls save lives. These aren't normally quite as powerful or game-changing as the level 1s that are 7,000, but there are a lot of times where straight up 9,000 with no gimmicks that attacks for 2 soul is a really good choice. Once again, Saber comes through for us by giving us 1 copy of a really good assassin card at level 2. Tap 2 assassins are pretty funny cards if you know how to use them correctly. When you play this Saber, you can tap the 2 cards in the back row to give her the +2,000 boost. She's a 10,000, she still gets the effects from the assists if you have assists in play, so she can pretty much step over anything at level 2. Heck, she'll also step over level 3s if that's what it takes. I'd like to take a second to talk about a fun little tech you can do with tap assassins, with this one in particular. Tap 2 in-play characters you know you don't really need. Make sure your field's full. Now, discard the 2 characters you just tapped, and play 2 new characters in their place, 2 more important characters. Now tap the 2 characters in your back row. Congratulations, you just figured out how to make your tap 2 assassin get their effect twice without having to give up your front row attackers. Can't really think of too many instances where you'll need her to be at 12,000, but hey, it's nice to have the option, right? Like a lot of trial decks, we get 2 copies of the level 3. This level 3 is incredibly decent. Not the best ever, but it is a really good card. First of all, this level 3 heals, which automatically makes it a good level 3. And also, just like a lot of the other sabers in the stack, it's an assassin. Most level 3s will be at 10,000, so you play this one, it becomes an 11,000, you step over there 10,000. Granted, it's not quite as good as the ones at the other levels, because at this point in the game, they're probably just gonna pay the 3 stock and have them live, and then, attack you next turn anyway. But that doesn't make it bad, it just makes it not quite as useful as the other levels. It happens. Look, we get an event too. 2 copies of Einspennern Castle. Okay, I'm gonna level with you. This isn't a very good card. Now, it's an okay card. It does have its uses. It's just not that great of a card. First of all, it's a searcher that requires you have at least 2 climaxes in your discard pile. Now, this obviously isn't that hard of a condition to fill, and most of the time you are going to have 2 climaxes in your discard pile, but, it's a really irritating stipulation when a lot of other searchers and a lot of other trial decks don't have that kind of stipulation. On top of that, it pulls out weapon and alchemy characters. The main problem here is not every card in your deck is a weapon or an alchemy character. Case in point is your level 3. Your level 3 doesn't have weapon or alchemy, so you couldn't use this late game to pull out your level 3 to heal. That's not even like advanced tactics or anything, that is a basic strategy that they take away by having this kind of restriction on this card. So it has irritating terms and doesn't work for all of your deck. It really isn't that great of a card. You can still use it, but admit it, it's not that great of a card. So admittedly, the climax lineup is a little bit irritating. The closest thing we have to a climax combo in this deck is the card that heals you if you play a yellow climax. Yet we get 2 yellow climax and 6 green. That's not very nice, Bushy Road. That's not very nice. So again, as somebody who doesn't watch the show, knows nothing about it, knew nothing about the deck going into it, I think this is a really fantastic deck. If somebody asked me, is the Fate Zero trial deck good enough to pick up or good enough to get into, I would obviously say yes in a heartbeat. I do think you should tweak up the level 2 lineup a little bit and probably work on the consistency of level 0 and 1 a little bit as well, but the good cards are there, and it's a solid deck on its own without any improvements. If you want to use this competitively because you love Fate Zero or something, then here's my first bit of advice for you. Pick up 2 of these decks. Most of the best cards in the deck you only get 2 copies of, so if you get 2 decks, you can have a full set of 4 of all of the best cards in the deck. Normally I'd say start with taking out the 4 vanilla zeros, but honestly, if you want to, go ahead and keep 2 of them in. They'll help fix your colors, and it's a 3000 beater. Why not? If you do decide to take all 4 of them out, then put in 2 more of the level 0 assassin. Use the 2 card space to get 4 of the level 3s in there. Take out the 4 5500 vanillas at level 1. Use that 4 extra space to put in 2 more of the Invisible Air Saber because it is the best level 1 you have available to you. Personally, I would put the other 2 towards the Proxy Master Ears Veil. If you don't like the card or don't have access to all 3, then you can go ahead and pump up your Imposing and Majestic Riders if you want. Alternatively, you could just take the green card out of your level 1 lineup altogether. Regardless of what you do, use any extra card you have left over to give yourself some more level 2 options. Start by trying to go up to at least 3 of the level 2 assist card. If you're feeling saucy, go ahead and throw in another of the backup card too. If you picked up 2 decks, you should have 2 copies of Saber in a dark suit. Now, even though it has a stupid name, it is a really good card, so go ahead and throw in an extra one there if you still have some space. Dedicate any space you might have left over to putting in more Clock Tower Elite Caniths. Now, this is just working with the starter deck. If you want to go into the actual set, look into Red. I'm really liking Red's cards so far. Definitely one of the best level 3s in the Fate Zero set. I'd also try to stay near Yellow a little bit. Yellow Assassins are normally already pretty powerful, but here in Fate Zero, they're just really powerful in Fate Zero. If I were going to build a deck using this set, I would personally make a yellow-red deck where I used yellow to stall until I got all of my really good late-game red cards. And I think that's it. I'll catch you all later. Don't forget, my 100 subscriber video is coming up soon. If you have any ideas for me, I need your ideas pronto. Catch you later.